everyone, we're the Steam Sisters. I'm Sandhya.
And I'm Swapna.
And this is the STEAM League, where we learn about the day-to-day careers, aspirations, and origin stories of incredible superheroes in science, technology, engineering, art, and math.
And today we have the wonderful honor of being with Amanda Veri.
Amanda is a microbiologist, a mycologist, and a research associate at the University of Toronto.
Yes, so Dr. Veri, it's really nice to have you on the STEAM League.
Welcome.
It's great to see you again.
Thank you so much for having me. This is really exciting.
Yeah, totally. Okay, so we are going to first do a quick cheers. Cheers to having Amanda on the show.
Dr. Amanda Veri, nice to have you.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, so we're going to start this chat off with a fungi game.
That's awesome.
Oh, it's going to keep happening. We're going to start with a quick fire round of questions, and we're going to pick our questions out of your beaker.
Amazing.
Okay, so the first one is, dun-da-da. Ooh, what is your favorite food, Amanda? Does it happen to involve edible fungus, such as mushrooms?
Yes. My favorite food would have to be bread because it's made with lots and lots of yeast, which is a fungi. So especially while we've been at home, working from home and spending all of our time at home, we've been making lots and lots of bread and trying to experiment with how to use the yeast to make things taste even better.
That's amazing. And yeast and bread in general is a fun thing to explore.
Do you have a favorite bread?
Ooh, I make pumpernickel bread the most because that's one of my favorite. And make a spinach dip, it's pretty good. But also I'm Italian, so we make a lot of pizza and a lot of focaccia, which is a really nice bread that's a mix between pizza and bread. It's got little pockets where you put salt and rosemary and lots of different toppings, so it's really, really good.
Delicious.
Best of both worlds.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, your next question is, what would your superpower be?
Ooh, good question. I like to think that my microbes are my superpower because they let me do lots of fun things. They actually are so important for us. They help digest our food. They give us so many good things. So I'd say definitely my microbes.
Sounds like you have a lot of sidekicks.
Yes, exactly.
Amazing. Okay, so who would you want to share a brunch with from history?
Ooh.
A brunch that includes a lot of bread.
Yes.
I've always been fascinated by Amelia Earhart. I think she's super cool. I think that would be fun. Basically, any scientist in the early days that was instrumental in doing research and who maybe didn't get as much credit as they deserved, I think. All women scientists, I think, would be amazing.
That would be amazing. Okay,
Yeah.
You'll have a series of brunches then.
The sky's the limit.
Yeah.
Your next question is, who was your biggest inspiration?
Ooh. I think that's a great question. I think I take a lot of inspiration from my family. I especially from my grandparents, in particular my grandmothers. They sacrificed a lot when they were coming to Canada to give us a better life. And I think that they weren't able to do all the things that they wanted in their lives because they didn't have access to things like education. But they still continued to sacrifice everything for us. And I have everything that I have in this world and these opportunities because of them. So I feel like they've been the inspiration for working hard through whatever situation you're given and trying to make the best of it.
That is really
beautiful.
inspirational. That's
Yeah.
lovely.
And I'm sure they'd be proud of you for sure.
Totally.
Okay, so the next one is, what's your favorite board game, Amanda?
Ooh, so recently I've been getting into Pandemic.
Oh, very topical.
Exactly. It's been actually a shame I never got to start playing it until this pandemic started. So it's really gotten me into it. And we got to do a talk on the science behind all of the different aspects of the game, which has been really fun too. I feel like that's the microbiologist answer, so it's maybe cheating. I also love Scrabble. Scrabble's always
Oh,
Scrabble's
we love
great.
Scrabble too. Yep.
Have you ever cleared your little rack of
Oh my gosh. That's a good, I don't think I'm that good at Scrabble actually.
forward to.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Favorite subject in school?
I definitely would have had to have said science. That's the obvious answer, but I definitely didn't like gym. I definitely, I tried to take courses in high school in accounting, and I tried to take economics courses in undergrad, and just to like diversify a bit. And I definitely did not like those. So I found that science was my thing, and I was supposed to stick with it.
It's important
You
to
tried.
find,
Yeah, exactly.
what you do like and what you don't like as well. So then that helps you figure out what your path is. So that's fantastic.
Now you're
Exactly.
very sure.
Exactly. I know this is right for me.
Favorite city
To visit.
I love traveling. I think it's so much fun. It's so, so exciting. I had a really fun time when we were in Morocco. Marrakesh was a beautiful city that was really beautiful and really fun. I love everywhere in Italy and everywhere in France. So I know everybody picks Paris, but I really loved the city Lyon in France because it's kind of smaller than Paris and kind of more like homely. But yeah, basically anywhere. It's always nice to explore new places and see their culture and their delicious food. The food's the best part.
Definitely. We definitely agree. Traveling is definitely a wonderful way to explore and discover other cultures and things. So it's lots of fun. Do you happen to speak any other languages, Amanda?
Ooh, not well. I grew up learning Italian, and so I have a touch of Italian and a touch of French. But my parents are from very different places in Italy, so I speak 3 different kinds of Italian badly.
Wow, that's very impressive.
That's
still
more kinds of Italian than
Either
many
of
of
us
us can
can
say.
Yeah, so you won't know if I'm doing it wrong, so it's fine.
I like how you put it, a touch of Italian and a touch of French.
Yeah.
Okay, so your next question is, that's the last one. What is your favorite fungus?
Ooh, good question. I don't want to just pick the one I work on. There's actually a kind of fungus that is like the largest organism in the whole entire world, and that's a mushroom. So it's a mycelium that grows underneath the ground, and it expands large areas and is able to allow plants to communicate with each other, as well as does a lot of good functions for helping the plant grow. So I think that's kind of cool because you would probably never expect that a fungus would be the largest organism in the world. So I think that's really cool. But I think there's lots of really pretty different kinds of fungi that are microscopic as well. So I love Instagram for fungi is really fun. Ooh, also there's another one called Xylaria polymorpha. It's also called dead man's fingers because it's a mushroom that looks like dead hands coming out of the ground. It's pretty cool too. Yeah.
For Halloween.
Yeah.
Now we're going to explore some of the who, what, where, when, why, and how of Dr. Amanda Veri and her career with some career questions.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
So, our very first question here for you, Amanda, is you're a microbiologist and a mycologist. How did you become interested in both of those fields, and what is it exactly that a microbiologist and a mycologist does?
Yeah, those are great questions. So when I was in undergrad at McMaster University, I did a co-op program that let me work in a couple of different research labs and research environments, which is really where I got to try out different kinds of research. And I started working in a microbiology lab where I worked on a kind of bacteria. And we looked at how they formed communities called biofilms, and they grow together, and they can be really difficult to treat because of that. And I really got fascinated by it. And then when I came to U of T to do my PhD, our program has a rotation system, which allows us to work in 3 different labs before we pick which one we want to do our PhD in. And so again, I got to try a lot of different places, and I really learned a lot of fascinating things. And I had never, ever expected to go into mycology. I don't think I even knew what it was at all. But then I joined this lab and I realized it was all my favorite things about microbiology, in that they grow fast, so you can do a lot of experiments with them, and we have a lot of tools that we can use, so you can ask some really tough questions. But instead of working on bacteria, we're working on fungi instead. And that's really fascinating because fungi are more closely related to humans than bacteria are. So that makes them a lot harder to treat. So for bacteria, there's at least 20 different classes of medicines that we can use to kill the bacteria. But for fungi, we only have 3 main classes. Wow. And so there's just not very many things that are different between a fungus than a human. And if we target different pieces of the fungus, often it causes bad effects to us. And so that's kind of funny to think about because these microscopic fungi are so different than humans, but so many of their parts are actually the same as in humans. So it's really fascinating and kind of really interesting to study.
That's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
Fun.
Yeah.
Super cool.
It sounds like keeping your options open and trying new things is a fantastic way to figure out what you might actually not know exists, but would be something that you're super interested in. So that's a really cool, interesting story that the way your path took that way. And considering how small, fungi and such are, perhaps we should have gotten into that field. We're pretty small too.
Right? I always say that I was a microbiologist for a reason because I'm very small. So I'm a microbiologist.
Yes.
Quite perfect.
It's not too late for us. It's not too late, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's never too late.
Your career path has kept you in academia. So what was that choice like and why did you make it? And would you change anything?
Yeah, that's a great question. I continued in academia because I just really loved it. And I decided that if I ever stopped loving what I did, I would find another path. But all throughout, I loved doing research in my undergrad. So I started my master's and I loved the research in my master's. So I never finished it and I went straight to my PhD. And when I finished my PhD, I decided to continue doing the research and applying my research in different ways. So now I get to supervise different undergraduate and graduate students and help them with their research and mentor them. And that's a new application and a new challenge for my research. But I think the academic environment allows you to ask a lot of questions. You're not restricted to learning just about things that a company cares about, or nobody will tell you to stop what you're doing. You really have the flexibility to continue to learn what you would like. And for now, it makes me really happy, but we'll see where I go from there.
That's pretty cool. So if you're curious about things, academia gives you the ability to ask those questions and find those answers to those questions.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, following up from that, you engage in both academia, but you're also able to do things such as leadership positions when you're mentoring undergraduate students, but you do and disseminate research, but you also do a lot in science communication and science outreach and that sort of thing, which is awesome. How do these two things balance each other?
Yeah, that's so important to me in terms of, I think it's our responsibility as scientists to share what we learn with other people. I think we do research because the government and the public believes in us and they support us. And so it's our job to share that with other people because we don't want to keep our knowledge all to ourselves. We want everybody to be able to benefit from it. And so I think sharing with graduate students and undergraduate students is one way to train the future scientists of the world, and that can have large impacts. But also telling other people, I love engaging with young students so that they can see that scientists are relatable, that they look like them or can look like them, and that anyone can be a scientist. And I hope that those have more long-term effects in inspiring curiosity and inspiring more people to go into science. So I think it's important for all of us to engage with if we can, and I love doing it. It's also when your science isn't working some days and things start feeling down and you feel grumpy, doing outreach and talking to students reminds you that science is really great, gives you some perspective. So I love it.
Definitely, we definitely agree, and sharing your passion for science can help reignite that passion in yourself. So that's really cool too.
Exactly. No, that's exactly what it is.
And I like how you say that anyone can be a scientist, because that's true.
Absolutely. Yeah, and science is such fun, and it's in everything that we do.
Exactly. And I love reminding people that you don't even have to go to school to be a scientist. You can just do experiments at home and read books and look things up on the internet. And as long as you're trying to ask questions and find out their answers, you're a scientist too. That's basically all we do.
Learning comes in lots of different ways, and people can be citizen scientists, which is lots of fun too.
Exactly.
Try this at home for sure. Okay, so what was the transition from school to starting your career like? Because you are relatively early in your career. So we're also wondering, what do you hope for as your career progresses? What are your goals?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think working for the first time was really an interesting transition because we're used to being students for so long. But I think the good thing about being a scientist is you still get to ask questions. You still get to feel like you're in school because you're doing the same things. You're learning all the time. So I think that has been kind of an easier transition. But over the course of the rest of my career, I hope I continue to find positions where I can continue to learn, apply what I know to bigger questions, and have more impact. I'd love to work for bigger organizations so I can help even more people and be able to talk to more people about science. So I hope I can continue doing the same kind of things, but on a bigger scale.
Cool. That's pretty
awesome. Okay, my next question for you, Amanda, kind of throws back to something we discussed very briefly in the quickfire. Remember when you mentioned the dead man's fingers?
Yeah.
Okay, so what exactly is a zombie, and what is the connection to microbiology or mycology?
That's a great question. So zombies are beings that are dead. So they're definitely dead, but they act like they're alive, and it's out of their own control. So they have no autonomy to control themselves. So they're this weird mix between dead and alive, and they often have many different traits, like they can't communicate properly and they can't move properly, and they maybe are aggressive and they bite people. And so those are kind of the traits that are associated with zombies. And what's interesting is in movies and in TVs and video games, you hear about zombies, but you don't really hear about what causes the zombies. And in almost all cases, it's microbes. And so microbes are what's causing the infections in them that causes them to pick up all those traits and to become zombies. And so it's all about microbiology. So I kind of am fascinated by looking at the different kinds of microbes that we have in real life that can cause symptoms of zombies, to be able to figure out if we could ever have zombies in real life.
So zombies don't sound like fun guys.
Exactly. But there are fungi in real life that do cause so they're called the cordyceps fungi, and they infect ants and insects in the bottom of like the forest floor. And what they do is they grow inside their brain and they control the movements of the insects. So they force the insects to crawl up from the bottom of the floor, up like different sticks or plants, and get into the air, where the fungus then grows out of their head and releases spores, and the spores travel in the air to different places so they can infect more insects. So it's the exact basically what zombie is, and they're called zombie fungi, colloquially. But because they're controlling these insects, and they're killing them, and they're doing it for their benefit. So it's kind of gross.
So zombies do exist, and mind and body control.
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay, on that note, Amanda, what's the best way to protect yourself from a zombie?
That's a perfect question. So all of the things that we do to stop spread of normal diseases in real life, when we're not talking about zombies, are still important. So what we want to do is make sure that we use our antibiotics and all of our antivirals and our antifungals, all the medicines that we have to stop the spread of bad infections. We want to really use those responsibly, so that if we did ever have zombies and we needed to protect ourselves against them, that we would have those tools in our army bag to help us We want to always support a strong immune system, and your immune system are the army that you have within you of cells that protect you against foreign germs. So we want to make sure that we always create environments that are supporting our immune system. And basically, the biggest thing I will say is that in all of the movies, when you see a zombie, they always like try to chop off their head, or they do things to kill them that like creates lots of blood splurting around everywhere. And my biggest advice is a lot of the times these infections spread through sharing of body fluids. So having all of that blood everywhere is really bad because they contain the virus or bacteria or whatever is causing the zombie infection. So I think if you did want to protect yourself against zombie, I would go with something like fire that like kind of burns them but doesn't release all of the fluids. So I think that would be the safest. Just in case you were wondering.
Taking notes because at school we have a zombie game every Halloween, and I think you'd be rad at that.
That's awesome.
Before we go on with more career questions, we want to take a little game break and have Amanda share with us the explanations for some of her Instagram photos. Let me go around.
All right, Amanda, we've got 2 photos for you here, and we're going to ask you to explain each one. So the first one is,
explain that photo.
Oh, that's a good one. So my mom taught me how to crochet. And so I started making scarves and stuff to start, but then realized there were patterns online for making microbes that you could crochet. And so I started running some workshops where people were able to, I taught them how to make their own different microbes. And you can see that they all have different traits because there's lots of ways to customize them. You can make different shapes. You can add eyes. We have little flagellums. We have cilia, which are the hairs around them. So it's a really fun way to teach a little bit more about microbiology while also learning some useful skills.
That is so
we have to
cool.
step up our game.
These are ours right now, and this is what we aspire to be.
I actually got the idea from Tahani that does the crocheting neurons and brains and stuff like that. So I met with her and she helped me and taught me how to give workshops and stuff, which was really great. She's fantastic, and it was great to learn from her expertise.
These amazing.
Are incredible, and we're definitely going to have to go to your next workshop.
Oh my gosh, yeah, let's do it. We'll make one just for you.
Oh,
We're in.
Are they going to be exactly the same?
Oh yeah, obviously.
So our next photo for you is a little bit harder to see, so we'll just bring it up close. Explain that photo.
Yeah, so that photo was taken of me and my lab when we were at the March for Science a couple of years ago. And one of the really interesting stories that comes out of that is one of my lab members had a sign that was about fungi and how great fungi was. And this random woman from the audience saw our sign and was excited and came to talk with us because she also was a fan of fungi. And it turned out she was actually the PhD supervisor of our PhD supervisor. So she's our science grandmother. And then we got to march the rest of the science march with her, which was really fun. So we were not only advocating for science and government, but we also got to be with our fellow scientists and meet new people, which was really great too.
That's amazing. What a story. You met your science grandmother.
That's the way to meet your science grandmother.
How cool.
So cool.
I know, it was so fun that it just kind of happened randomly. And so we've spent quite a bit of time with her since then, since we made that connection, which was fun.
That's
so
awesome.
Sweet.
Yeah, and it's so important to talk about science and how useful it is for everything that we do, and because as we've said, it's in every part of life. So that's really, really cool that you're doing that. Awesome.
Neat.
Okay, so we've had some more career questions multiplying in our heads. So we're going to return to a few more career questions for you.
Starting with, what's one mistake that you've made that turned out to be a great lesson?
I think there were definitely moments where I felt like the PhD was a mistake because it was very difficult and very challenging, but it turned out to be a great experience. So I'm glad that I stuck it through. And a lot of times challenging things are good obstacles for us to learn from, but they end up being great parts of our life. I think there's other times where I have my first ever science job that I ever got was part of my co-op program, and I had my first set of interviews, and in my first interview ever, I actually cried because the person interviewing me kept asking me really like scary questions, and I just wasn't prepared for it at all. I had tried, but he asked me very scary questions, and I cried and was very upset. And I was very disappointed in myself, but because of that, I then worked hard and built up more interview skills, and then was able to interview better at other interviews I had that session. And then I got a really great position that I really loved and really enjoyed. So I think it was also about learning from my mistakes and building skills. And in the end, I think I ended up where I should have been. And I think I ended up with a fantastic supervisor who would have never made me cry. So he was probably better for me than the first person.
Well, you're a really good role model with that in terms of the perseverance, because everyone goes through difficult moments, and learning how to build off of those is a really, really key skill. So that's really awesome.
That's really cool. I think we all have setbacks. We all have different things that make it difficult for us to succeed, and we just have to find ways to deal with it ourselves. And I also have a lot of anxiety, and that's been hard, and it's been a challenge. But it's learning how to work through that and not to let it stop you from doing what you really want to.
Totally.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
Okay, so our next question is, what is the most surprising thing you've learned as a microbiologist and mycologist?
It's been interesting. Last year we got to go to a conference with all different kinds of microbiologists from different fields. So that was really fun because we got to learn more broadly about different kind of microbes we're not usually used to. But they also had speakers who talked about kind of ways that the government can make rules to better make sure that we don't have large amounts of antibiotic resistance in the community. And so there are these cool models of how the UK is doing it. They're kind of making like a Netflix subscription service so that, yeah, right, which is really cool. But it's an interesting model that they're trying to see if hospitals will pay for, okay. Let me explain the problem. So pharmaceutical companies that make antibiotics, they spend a lot of time putting money and research into making these drugs. And in a perfect world, we shouldn't really use them very much because we want them to be there when we need them, which means that they don't make very much profit if people don't buy the drugs. So the Netflix subscription model in the UK is kind of based off the fact that you're paying the company for the fact that you want to use them and you want to keep those drugs for the future when you really need them, but it's not based on how many particular units you use. And so that promotes kind of using the drugs responsibly and helps the companies to be able to continue to support providing these kinds of medicine. So I think that's been such an interesting idea, and it's cool to see what other countries are doing to try and deal with this really important problem and trying to see what works and what doesn't work, and because government has a lot of power to change those kind of things. So
what a unique solution.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was so cool, so fascinating. I hadn't heard of that before.
It's fascinating, and you're really right. In science, we do need to have the government play a role, and there's lots of different roles for different areas because the future is collaborative and problems.
It's a community.
It is a community.
Exactly.
And problems are solved that way. So that's pretty neat.
And innovation is very important as well. Because we've been dropping a lot of the puns here, I was going to ask you, Amanda, do you have any go-to fungus or microbe or anything of that sort jokes?
Ooh. No, I use the fungi and fungals a lot. I think those are definitely those are my favorite puns. Those are but no, I don't. I should get more jokes. I'll have to learn from you both because you guys seem to have got it down pat.
Well, I've got another one for you. I never really liked mushrooms, but you know, they're growing on me.
That's awesome.
To be quite honest, I still don't like mushrooms, but
maybe hit or miss for sure.
So, Amanda, as a scientist, you have a lot going on your plate, or on your petri dish, should I say?
That's awesome.
So what is your favorite way to de-stress?
I really love going for walks. I really enjoy being able to just get out, have a break from the environment that I'm in, and just let myself decompress. And I love either listening to music or listening to podcasts while I do that. And I'm really fortunate that my neighborhood has a really great trail system. It's kind of small, but it's really nice because I can go, it's a 10-minute walk from my house. And then you walk in and you just feel like you could be in the middle of a forest, even though you're just like in a small little group. And recently the trilliums have become blooming. And it's been fun to walk around and trying to find different colors of trilliums within there. So I feel really fortunate that my neighborhood has that. I really love it because it's a great way to de-stress.
Oh my goodness, have you seen the purple trilliums?
Yes. My neighborhood has them, purple trilliums. And then ones that are like a mix between purple and green, and then ones that are a mix between like purple and white. So there's been lots of different kinds in there.
Amazing.
That is the coolest.
That is super cool.
You'll have to come up to Vaughan.
Oh,
we'll be there as soon as this is over and we're able to, travel to
this
places.
being a pandemic.
Yes. Exactly. As soon as this interview's over, we're gonna be there.
Yeah, that's amazing. Do you see a lot of fungi? How do you pronounce that, Amanda?
Everybody pronounces it different. I say fungi. A lot of people say fungi. There's no wrong way to do it. So that's good.
Do you see a lot of fungals on your walk?
Unfortunately, I haven't found that many in my neighborhood. But if you go to places like Algonquin and places where there's more substantial forest systems, you usually are able to see a bunch.
Cool beans.
That is cool. Would lichen then be one of those things that you'd see that would be classified in that group?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's really fun. Some of the conferences that we go to, they have mushroom hunter nights where the whole group goes together for walks wherever we are, and you always have the people who know about different species, which I'm not an expert in, but they help us to classify the different kinds that we find. It's really fun.
I'm liking that idea.
Good. You're really good.
Thank you. All right. I'm going to go to the next question now, which is, what is one piece of advice that you'd give to someone interested in your field?
I would say that lots of microbiologists and lots of scientists in general are super helpful and super willing to talk to people. I love when people reach out to me on Twitter or Instagram or email or anything and just have questions. And I wish I had known scientists when I was growing up. I didn't know anyone and I had no one to ask my questions to, and I really wish I had had that because I really needed advice and I didn't really know what to do. It's been great now. As an adult, I ask other people for help way more often, and I just find people on the internet and reach out and send messages to, and people are always happy to chat on the phone for a bit or meet for coffee, back when we were allowed to meet people for coffee. And so I love doing that with other people. So they definitely, if you're interested in something, try it. I think it's always good to try a bunch of different things before you figure out what you want to do. And sometimes you can find out if you like something by just talking to somebody. So just hearing what their day-to-day job is like and what kind of challenges they have and what skills they need. That can be really useful for figuring out if that career is for you. So definitely ask for help because there's lots of people out there who want to help you.
That's great advice. And you never know until you try. So
exactly.
Definitely. And it's really useful and important to see that there are people like all of us in these positions. So definitely important to see the diversity and the role models that are out there. And it's great that you're being one of those for people who are younger than us now, since you didn't have that when you were small.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. So this question I like. We are passionate about STEAM, a part of which includes art. And we've already seen some super cool art that you do before that incorporates your field of microbiology. So tell us a bit more about your artistic side. We're exploring STEAM here, so we want to know how you incorporate art.
So I have never really thought of myself as an artistic person. I took band in high school instead of taking art because I'm not actually that good at drawing. But it's only as I grew up that I realized that there's no one way to do art. You don't have to be good at particular things. It's following what's interesting to you. And I love using my microbes as my art, and I love showing how beautiful they are and trying to find ways to inspire people to learn more about microbes and get them excited by it. I want people not to be scared of microbes because a lot of them are bad, like SARS-CoV-2 that causes COVID-19. Like, it's dangerous and we have to be careful, but there's also a lot of great microbes out there, and I want people to see that. So my artistic side comes all from my microbes. They're my inspiration always. And there's lots of really cool, beautiful things in nature that we can learn from. And so yeah, I like the more natural parts of art.
That's amazing. So we feel a lot, we feel very cultured learning about your career, Amanda, and it looks like all of your accomplishments keep multiplying. So if it's no truffle, we'd love to learn a little bit more about what it's like to be a mycologist and microbiologist through our next segment, which is show and tell.
Yeah.
Have you brought to show us, Amanda?
Yes. Okay. So as a scientist, we grow our microbes on agar plates, which are like these. And what I like to do is add different colors to my agar plates. So you can see the stack here where I've just added food coloring to every different one, so that they look even prettier.
What's agar?
Oh, good question. Agar is actually something that's found in environments. It's made from seaweed and algae. It's a natural component, kind of like what makes your Jell-O solidify. So kind of like gelatin, but more natural and plant-based. And so in these plates, we have that to keep it solid, but we also have lots of different kinds of sugars and nutrients that the microbes use to grow. So then from there, what I do is I take my bread yeast from the grocery store, and I add it to some water, and I just mix it up. So this is not dangerous at all because it's just from the grocery store. And I use a Q-tip and dunk it into my yeast suspension mixture. And then I take a fresh plate that hasn't been grown on, and then I can just draw pictures. And sometimes, well, you won't be able to see right away what I draw, but I just am able to draw different pictures. Sometimes I also use paintbrushes if I want more refined, smaller abilities to draw things. So I can show you some live examples. So this is the sun.
Oh, that's so cool.
This is my name that's now backwards and grown a lot.
Dr. Amanda Veri.
We also have like fun things. So now that I'm working on doing all this art at home, we also get lots of different things that grow from the air on these plates. So here you can kind of see, this is CN Tower in the background, and we have some buildings and some birds, but we also have some airborne fungus that has decided to grow on my plate. And these are the same kinds that would grow in your bread.
Oh, cool.
And these go
Same
back.
microbes in your bread. Cool.
Wow.
And so, yeah, so if you want to grow microbes at home, you can also take just bread slices, and you can also just stick your hand on there, and anything that's on your hand will start growing on the bread. You also will get mold from the air as well, so you can do it too without any supplies besides bread. But I love different kinds of contaminants. You can see all the different colors. They also, you can't see from far away, but they also produce different colored compounds and different kinds of medicine that they do naturally. And actually a lot of the medicines that we use to cure diseases are from those compounds that different bacteria and fungi make naturally to protect themselves in the wild. So,
Wow.
pretty fun. We can also show you some other pictures of ones I've done in the past.
That's sweet.
This is a fun experiment I did where I grew all of the microbes that came in my sneeze.
Oh.
This is to make sure that everybody knows that they should cough or sneeze into their arm or into a tissue, because lots of things come out in those droplets when you cough or sneeze, and they grow, and we don't want those germs to spread on other people, and so we have to be careful. So that's a good example of that.
That's an excellent visual representation of why you should cough and sneeze into your elbow.
Yeah, you don't want that. And also a good reminder, if you're out in places like the TTC and you touch something, you don't know if somebody else coughed or sneezed there recently. So you want to wash your hands, because there's a lot of things that could spread and could live there.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Better safe than sorry.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So 2 more pictures. This is the anatomic heart that I drew just with yeast.
Wow.
So the options are endless.
Mm-hmm.
We also have there's Baby Yoda.
Oh,
adorable.
I love that.
And my last one, this is a DNA that I drew. And in this case, I was in the research lab, so you can see my purple gloves. But we had special bacteria that were different colors. And so we were able to create these pictures by using each of the different kinds of bacteria that was expressing a different protein that made it a different color. So that's really cool too, to play around with, to get to incorporate more colors into my art.
That's amazing.
Is so cool, and you're so talented. What an artist. I love that.
You are both very talented too. I do remember both of you trying your hand at agar art and being pretty good at it. So you've got the skills as well.
Well, thank you very much. We had a great teacher.
Yes, we did. And it sounds like you could do this beautiful art while learning about scientific things around the microbes and so on, but also at the end, make some more bread.
Exactly.
Yeast.
Exactly. And so we hope that as the schools start opening again, that we'll be able to go into more schools and do these activities with different students, because it's really fun, it's really safe, and it's beautiful. It's fun to make art.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah. Great example of STEAM.
Perfect.
And I think we have some time for a few more questions, this time from our audience.
Perfect.
All of you who sent out questions, I'm going to grab our question box. You should have music for that.
See, we got the matching moves. That's how in sync we are today.
All right.
So this is our box, and we've got some questions. Okay, David wants to know, how are bacteria and fungi classified? Thanks for your question, David.
Yeah, that's a great question. So bacteria are prokaryotes, which means that they have cells that do not have membrane-bound organelles or compartments. So they don't have things like nuclei or mitochondria or any kind of other organelles or parts that a lot of other cells have, whereas fungi are eukaryotes, just like humans. So we have all of those membrane-bound organelles. We have higher order structures like a nuclei that help contain our DNA and have everything processed. So those are the 2 big categories that they're classified under. But interestingly, viruses are neither one of those, because there's still a debate about whether they're living organisms or not.
Interesting.
Yes.
More research questions to follow up on.
Exactly.
Okay, so Numa would like to know, what are the similarities and differences between bacteria and fungi? Thanks for the question, Numa.
Yeah, that's a great question. So there are lots of similarities. So they're both single cell organisms. So they're just one single cell. And they're both microscopic, and they can be really small. Fungi are slightly bigger than bacteria in most cases. They both can change sizes and shapes and adapt to different environments that they're in. They're both found in many environments, and they're often found together. They both have the opportunities to be either exactly. You'll have to decide which one's the bacteria and which one's the fungi. But they both can be very helpful or very harmful. There's different kinds of both. They're different, just like in the ways that I mentioned before. So one's a prokaryote and one's a eukaryote. Bacteria are more distantly related from humans than fungi are. And so they have different structures, like fungi have cell walls. And so that kind of helps us to create drugs, because we can't use the same medicines that we use for killing bacteria that we can use for fungi. So we target structures that are unique to fungi to kill those.
Whoa, very interesting stuff.
And really important to know the differences and the similarities between them. Okay, last audience question. Alex wants to know, what is the grossest thing that you've analyzed or seen? Thanks for the question, Alex.
That's amazing. We definitely do competitions in the lab for the grossest things we can find. And the grossest things are always things that happen accidentally. And so they're always the coolest. So it'll always be if somebody's left a bottle half opened, or for some period of time, or just forgot about it on the back of their shelves, you can usually find some big balls of multi-microbes growing together. And they kind of sometimes look like brains. And so yeah, anything that we've left in the lab for long periods of time, you can find really gross, but also kind of really fascinating things growing inside them. They're often different colors. So we've always wanted to be able to, you can find out exactly what kinds of bacteria and fungi are in there. So that's something we've always been interested in doing. That's not our area of expertise, but I think it's really cool because they are creepy and slimy, but they're also really cool.
That's awesome.
I think I saw on your Instagram that there was poop that was ended up having a specific color.
Yeah.
Or something. Oh, we do have a picture of it.
Yes. Yes. So there's a lab near us, beside us, and they do all kinds of work on recovering different kinds of microbes from mice poop. And so there's also a lot of smells in science. So they're definitely important to know that. Those are kind of gross too. But yeah, so our scientist friends, they lent me some of their poop microbes, and those microbes are actually naturally made different colors. So it wasn't, that the scientists changed them themselves. Those actually were naturally pink, which is really exciting and really cool. So I find that fascinating, that biology and nature has cool things like that, and that we can learn a lot from the microbes that are in poop, because they kind of give an idea of what kind of microbes are growing inside of our digestive systems. So there's lots of scientists that work on that.
That's amazing. So it's fun, but also super important and very colorful as well.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I think we should check the back of the fridge.
But that goes back to our discussion about diversity. There's a diversity of microbes, just like there's a diversity of people, and everyone's important. Every beautiful different kind of microbe is important. So diversity is essential.
That's
cool.
Amazing.
I like the way you put that.
Okay, so I think that was all of our questions, and we just want to thank you very, very, very much, Amanda, for joining us on the Steam League.
Well, I guess we don't have much room for more questions, but I do have one more, and that is, what's next for you?
I need to come up with better jokes. You are both amazing at this.
Thank you. It's just so fun. We love it.
No, I mean, it's a very important skill for sure. So right now what I'm trying to do is we have started a program to have scientists Skype or Google Meet into online classrooms. And so that connects students in different schools with scientists, especially since everybody's working from home and we can't go into the classrooms in person. And I really hope that we'll be able to expand this program so that we can reach schools that don't usually have access to scientists. So ones that are farther away from universities and don't usually have feasible means of bringing scientists to schools. And it's been a really fun experience to talk to students. So I really hope that we'll be able to expand that program to be bigger and access more students.
That's amazing.
That's fantastic. It's really important to spread your passion for science and have other people learn about it too, because it's so incredible.
Yeah.
So now we'd like to thank you so much again, Amanda, for being on the STEAM League. And everyone, you can check out even more superheroes in the STEAM League on our YouTube channel and at steamsisters.ca.